Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we have a very technical, very advanced lesson for you. This is all about one of my favorite subjects.
That's right. We're going to talk about music, but specifically, we're going to talk about the piano and learning how to play the piano. So we're going to talk about very specific vocab related to this instrument.
Right. So piano and playing music, not listening to music.
Right.
So we're going to hear a lot of interesting words and phrases here. Some of them actually come from foreign languages like Italian. So listen up. We'll be back in a moment. And when we come back, we'll be talking about what these words and phrases mean.
Hi, Cody. How did practicing go this week?
Well, I had several tests and an oral presentation this week, so I didn't get a chance to memorize the second page, but I think I mastered the tricky section.
Great. Warm up with some scales and arpeggios first. Good, good. This week, work on keeping the rhythm steady when you play the last part with the 16th notes. Now, let's take a look at this tricky section.
Charlene, before I start, I was wondering if it was okay if I put a small crescendo in here and then a decrescendo back to pianissimo again over here.
It might work. I'll have to hear it. Show me what you've done. Not bad.
It was horrible. I played it much better at home.
Oh, it's just nerves. Just play the right hand for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ta, ti, triple E, T. Good, good. Don't forget the accidentals. The key signature says that note should be a G sharp, but now it's a G natural. Now add the bass clef. Oh, you're going too fast. Remember the tempo for this piece is andante.
Is that better?
Yes, much better. Watch where you lift your foot off the pedal. What was that?
Sorry, the stretch for that octave is always hard to make.
That's okay. Keep going. You're moving ahead by leaps and bounds. Watch your dynamics. Keep your elbows lifted. Remember to stroke the keys. Don't pound. That's better. Remember that as a pianist or any other musician, your technique will be what separates you from the pack just as much or as more so as your musicianship.
All right, we're back. So you probably noticed that there are a lot of ways to describe certain aspects of playing the piano. They talked about scales and all that stuff. So why don't we take a deeper look at this vocab in Language Takeaway Part 1.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so the first part of the lesson is the warm-up. That's when we, start to get our fingers moving and really stretch out. This is an important part of any musician's routine because it's also a way to practice some very basic, very fundamental things. For the first of which is a scale.
Okay, so actually Cody started warming up with some scales. So what exactly are scales?
Well, basically, there are different musical notes. Some people know them as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Some people call them C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But each of those and many others have scales, so that's 8 notes together.
Okay. So basically, when you're playing scales, you're just playing a sequence of these 8 notes.
Right, going up or down.
Okay, to warm up. And what about an arpeggio? I think this is Italian, right?
Definitely. Arpeggio is another kind of warm-up where you're not playing every single note, you're playing some notes in a scale. All right, so da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay.
That's an arpeggio.
Okay, very good. So, and as you said, these are usually for warm-ups, right?
Yeah, they're also very important because they come into play later when you're talking about the key that a song or piece of music is in. So this helps you memorize the key that some music is in.
Okay, very good. So I think related to this is the rhythm of the piece that you're playing.
That's right. So rhythm is really important. Some people can even say, he's got rhythm or they have rhythm. It's a way to describe the beat of a kind of music. So sometimes it has to do with how fast or how slow something is. Other times it has to do with the way that the notes work together. For example, a steady beat would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a complicated beat. It goes ta, ti, tripoli, ta, ti, tripoli. So this is a very difficult kind of rhythm.
Okay, so the rhythm is just it gives you the how fast, how slow it is, and I guess if you can take a look at notes and you can play it in many different rhythms, but not necessarily they're going to sound correct.
Right. And actually, it's interesting. In English, we also have a group of instruments that are called rhythm instruments. So this would be like the drums.
Okay, so it gives the beat.
Yes.
Very good. And, well, moving on, I think some other Italian words popped up in here when they talked about crescendo and decrescendo.
Right. So crescendo is when something becomes louder. So I can make a crescendo, right? But a decrescendo, de in Italian, just like in English, means it's the opposite. So it means it's getting really softer.
Okay. And what about pianissimo?
Pianissimo is basically an indication. It also comes from Italian. It's an indication that a player, a musician, should play something very, very, very quietly.
Okay.
It's almost like a whisper.
Okay, so all these three words have to do with the volume of, or how loud or not so loud you play the instrument.
That's right.
Okay, very good. And well, moving on now, we talk about accidentals.
Okay, this is important. Remember earlier we were talking about scales. Well, for example, the G scale has one sharp. So that's an F sharp. So if I'm playing it on the piano, there are 7 white keys and 1 black key.
Okay, so actually here they mention G sharp and then something like G natural. All this, just like for everyone that's out there, is complete Chinese to me. I have no idea what this is all about. So you have the accidentals and G sharp, and you're describing something about sharpness with accidentals.
That's right. So basically, if you look at a piano, you have white keys.
Right.
Those are naturals. They don't have a sharp or a flat.
Okay.
The sharps and flats are actually played on the black keys. Usually, it's a half step from a normal note. So G, it's a half step.
Okay.
We're talking about different keys. So if something is in the key of G, in all of you music people know what this is. Key of G, there's one accidental. What's the accidental? It's always F sharp. And so an accidental means a sharp or a flat in that key.
Okay, and when we talk about sharps on the piano, they're basically the black keys.
Yes, well, sharps and flats can both be black keys.
Okay, very good. And, well, apart from accidentals and G sharp, G natural, the teacher also talked about a bass clef.
Okay, this is important for people who play lower instruments like the bass, the upright bass, dum 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 dum, that big one, or people who play the piano, obviously. This represents a way of writing the lower notes.
Okay.
Okay, so you see the lines, those 5 lines on paper, and people write the notes. Well, sometimes they're for higher instruments, the flute or the trumpet, but sometimes when they're for lower instruments, like the left hand of a piano or for the upright bass, you have to write it in a special register, a special part of the sound kind of continuum, and that's the treble. That's the bass clef.
Okay. So basically, if anyone has ever seen piano notes, it tells you what to play with your left hand and your right hand. So I imagine the bass clef will be everything that's on your left hand, because that sounds like deeper, graver, right?
Yeah, it's lower. So it's lower on the scale instead of like up high, up here, where it's on the treble clef.
All right. So the opposite would be the treble clef.
That's right. The treble clef is up higher. It's most other instruments like the trumpet. The bass clef is for lower instruments, and it just means that the way that you read the music on the page is a little bit different.
Okay, very good. And, well, we also got into things like tempo, and the piece, it was described as andante.
Andante. This is a very Italian word. Okay, so andante means that something is played slowly.
Okay. So, apart from andante, so it's a style or a tempo. I guess tempo is the speed of which is played, right?
That's right. But you're right to say that it's also a style, because in many symphonies, for example, there's a movement, a part of the symphony that's called the andante. And that's when everything starts to get slow and serious or pretty. And
I've heard, I don't know, in piano I've heard of something called staccato. And I think this is also related to tempo, right?
Staccato is the way that you play something. So instead of having these long, pretty notes, you're playing them like this.
Oh, they're very, very sharp.
Right, like a machine gun.
Okay, so, but it's not related to the tempo. It's
No.
kind of more just like the way that you press the keys.
Exactly. It's a style for playing.
Okay. All right, well, the teacher also told the student to be careful where they lift the foot off the pedal. And the student said, oh, I'm just so sorry. The stretch for that octave is always hard to make.
Okay, so an octave is really, really important in music. Like we were talking about earlier with a scale is 8 notes. Well, the root, the place the word octave comes from is the number 8, like an octagon.
Right.
So octave means 8 notes together, or like low C, high C, that's an octave.
Oh, okay.
So think about the piano. When you're putting your fingers on the keys, covering 8 keys means you have to stretch your thumb and your pinky out really, really far. And so he's saying, sorry, it's hard for me to do this because the octave, that stretch is really hard for my hand.
Right, okay. So this is different from an eighth, right?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about eighth note?
I don't know, because it just came into mind. Because an octave is 8 and an eighth note, is it different, I imagine?
Yeah, well, you heard in the dialogue 16th note, 8th note. That's actually talking about the length of a note, how long you hold it.
Okay.
So basically you're saying it's the way you measure the music. It can have 4 count or 3 count, but you divide that into pieces. It's like a pie in math where you divide it into pieces. So if it's a 16th note or an 8th note, that's the length based on the kind of music you're playing.
So I imagine 16th note is shorter than 8th.
Yes.
Okay. At least I got that one right.
And 32nd note is shorter than a 16th note.
Wow, you have all the way up to 30 seconds.
64th note is shorter than
Okay.
It gets very complicated, very mathy.
All right. And towards the end, the teacher recommended for Cody to watch his dynamics. What does she mean with watch your dynamics?
I used to get this all the time in music. So you're concentrating on your music, you're playing, you're getting the notes, and Cody is stretching his hands. The octaves are so far away, and he forgets to play it loud or soft.
Oh, okay.
Because on the page it says, like we heard earlier, decrescendo. So get much, much softer. So Cody completely forgot. He's not listening. He's not reading the page and seeing what it says about the volume of the music.
So basically, the dynamics are like the instructions of how loud to play it or not so loud.
Exactly. So does it say pianissimo or the opposite? Does it say forte?
And it'll actually say this on the notes.
Yes.
In forte, it'll say that.
Forte, or sometimes just F.
Oh, okay.
So P is piano. That means, like we said earlier, quiet. Pianissimo is PPP. It's very, very quiet. F is forte, loud.
Okay, so I think, if anyone out there plays an instrument, you can relate and you can maybe know about these things that you may know it in your original language. I know many people who play musical instruments and don't really know the technical words in their original language. I mean, things like andante and pianissimo, things like this, I think are universal, right? They're used in whatever language.
Exactly. Very, very widely used.
But things like the accidentals or bass clef or scales and stuff like that, I think it's obviously in different languages. For example, you know Italian, like scales or accidentals, are they?
They're different.
They're different, right?
Yeah, they're different. All of the other words. So the instructions on the page, because music is shared all over the world, the instructions on the page are almost always in Italian, so piano, andante, or they're in German.
Oh, really?
Some music. But everything else, scales, octaves, these are all in your native language. And so they're very, very important to study if you want to play, and I think very, very useful if you want to study an instrument.
Yeah, of course. I think it's also very a good idea to just have a general knowledge about these things because, sometimes it's nice to know a little bit about it, and maybe if a friend is talking about music, you can maybe understand a little bit more about what it's like, or if you see music, a sheet of music, you can now more or less know what's going on with all those drawings and little scribbles there.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to come to our website and ask or share your experiences, as Marco has just said. So please come to EnglishPod.com. We hope to see you there.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Requiring skill or caution. Tricky. A series of musical notes. Scale. The speed at which a musical piece is played. Tempo. Very quickly. By leaps and bounds. The skill of performing music. Musicianship. A specific musical tone. Note. Changes in how loudly a piece of music is played. Dynamics. A button to press with fingers to produce sounds. Key.
Let's try that faster.
Changes in how loudly a piece of music is played. Dynamics. Requiring skill or caution. Tricky. The speed at which a musical piece is played. Tempo. Very quickly. By leaps and bounds. A series of musical notes. Scale. A button to press with fingers to produce sounds. Key. The skill of performing music. Musicianship. A specific musical tone. Note.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Note. The crowd cheered wildly when she hit the high note at the end of the song. Note. This tune represents a fluttering butterfly, so the note should be played lightly and fluidly. Note. The two 16th note were followed by a quarter note and an eighth note. Tempo. As soon as the band picked up the tempo, several groups of people began dancing on the dance floor. Tempo. This week, I want you to practice this section at a slow tempo, hands separately. Tempo. There are no markings indicating the tempo in this piece, but I think it sounds best when played andante. By leaps and bounds. Your musicianship has been improving by leaps and bounds recently. By leaps and bounds. The value of his investments kept increasing by leaps and bounds. By leaps and bounds. The construction work on the new apartment complex was advancing by leaps and bounds. Dynamics. The dynamics in this piece are few, but there are many changes in time signature. Dynamics. Watch out for the dynamics and remember to get softer here and louder in this section. Dynamics. Sometimes when I play a piece of music, I ignore the marked dynamics and play it the way I feel it should be played instead. Key. The piano has black keys and white keys. Key. He stroked the keys beautifully as he played. Key. The child giggled at the sound that was made when he pressed down on the piano keys.
Hello everyone and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we have a cold lesson.
That's right. It's the winter season, and of course it gets cold in a lot of different places around the world, and so we're going to talk about heating.
Okay, this is very important, but before we do get started, we have a very important word to preview in vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
All right, so we're going to preview the word freezing.
It is freezing today, by the way, so this is very appropriate. Freezing means very, very, very cold.
Okay, it is freezing. Okay, so it's very cold. It's freezing today.
It's so cold, in fact, you can't have water outside because the water will become ice.
It will freeze. Okay, great word. So let's listen to our dialogue for the very first time.
It's freezing in here. Can I turn up the heat?
Don't touch that thermostat. You don't pay the bills around here.
Dad, are you serious? What's the point of having central heating if we can't use it? Look, I can see my breath.
Put on a sweater. I'm not gonna let you run up my heating bill just because it's a bit chilly.
Dad, I'm gonna catch a cold.
When I was your age, my parents didn't have central heating like you do. We had a furnace in the center of the living room and that was it. We used it to cook, heat the house, and even dry our clothes. We never caught a cold. You should be grateful.
All right, we're back, and this is actually what a lot of dads are like, I think, around the world.
Yep, my dad definitely liked to keep the heat low in our
Really?
house. Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's take a look at some 4 words on language takeaway today.
Language takeaway.
Well, this first word is important for anyone who has a home with heating. It's called a thermostat.
All right, a thermostat. What is a thermostat?
A thermostat is a dial or a
device.
device on the wall that tells you how hot or how cold the house is. It's like a thermometer for your house.
Okay, so you can move the thermostat, the temperature, to make the house warmer or colder, right?
Right, so if it says it's 20 degrees and I think that's too cold, I can turn the thermostat up to 23 degrees.
All right. And, very much related to a thermostat and what this device does is our next word, central heating.
Right, so if you have central heating, you have a thermostat. That's the way to control the heat. And central heating means that you have one heater for the whole house. And so the air comes into all the different rooms. So not many places in China have this, but for example, in the United States and Canada, it is very common.
Okay, so your house or your apartment building will have central heating, and then you can control how cold or warm the house is with thermostats.
Exactly.
Very good. And well, our next word is related to temperature, and it's chilly.
Chilly. Okay, so there's a big difference between chilly and freezing. Freezing means very, very, very cold. Chilly means a little cold.
Right. So it's a little cold. It's a bit chilly.
Right, so it's a bit chilly today. I'm going to wear a hat. Okay, if it's freezing, I'm going to wear a hat and mittens
And
and a
coat.
scarf and coat and boots.
All right. So if it's a bit chilly, it's not very cold. And well, moving on, the dad mentioned about him having a furnace when he
Right.
was young.
That's right. The dad had a furnace in his house, and a furnace is a way to heat your house. It's like a stove.
So yeah, just consider it like a big oven, right? Maybe you've seen it in the old movies where you would have to throw firewood into the furnace to make it heat up the house.
Exactly. And so this is very common in older homes and not very common in apartments.
Right. And well, that's all the words we have for language takeaway today. Why don't we listen to this chilly dialogue again?
It's freezing in here. Can I turn up the heat?
Don't touch that thermostat. You don't pay the bills around here.
Dad, are you serious? What's the point of having central heating if we can't use it? Look, I can see my breath.
Put on a sweater. I'm not gonna let you run up my heating bill just because it's a bit chilly.
Dad, I'm gonna catch a cold.
When I was your age, my parents didn't have central heating like you do. We had a furnace in the center of the living room and that was it. We used it to cook, heat the house, and even dry our clothes. We never caught a cold. You should be grateful.
All right, we're back. So now we have prepared for you 3 key phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency builder.
Okay, so this first phrase is related to thermostat, okay? So thermostat, like we said, is like a thermometer, but we can control the temperature. So if we want to make the temperature hotter, we turn up the thermostat.
Okay. So this is a phrasal verb, to turn up the heat.
You could say this about heat. You could say this about noise, too. Can you turn up the radio?
Turn up the volume. So it's to increase.
To increase, to make bigger or warmer or louder.
All right. And if we wanted to decrease the temperature in the thermostat, you would say
Turn down.
turn down the heat.
Exactly. So it's too hot in here. Can you please turn down the heat?
All right. Very good. And our next phrase is, the dad was talking about the bills and how expensive it is to use the thermostat. And he said, I'm not going to let you run up my heating bill.
Okay, so a bill is like, something that you pay. It's money. And so in this case, I don't want you to run up the bill. That means to increase the amount of money I have to spend.
So maybe if you leave your television on all night, you're running up your electricity bill.
Exactly. Or if you talk on the phone 10 hours a day, you run up the phone bill and your mother kills you.
Right. All right. And the daughter was complaining about her catching a cold. To catch a cold.
All right, so remember this. A cold is when you have maybe a runny nose and a cough and a sore throat. It usually happens when the weather changes, but we don't get a cold. You catch a cold.
Okay.
And remember, like in baseball, you throw and catch. It's something that's fast.
All right, so you catch a cold. What about the flu? Do you get the flu or catch the flu?
So you can't catch a flu, but you can catch a cold. Just remember this phrase, to catch a cold. I caught the cold. No, to catch a cold, or I caught a cold. It's almost like if I have it, I could throw it to you, Marco. Achoo! And you catch it.
Right, because it's in the air, the virus.
Yeah, it passes very quickly.
All right, very good. So an interesting dialogue. Let's listen to it one last.
It's freezing in here. Can I turn up the heat?
Don't touch that thermostat. You don't pay the bills around here.
Dad, are you serious? What's the point of having central heating if we can't use it? Look, I can see my breath.
Put on a sweater. I'm not gonna let you run up my heating bill just because it's a bit chilly.
Dad, I'm gonna catch a cold.
When I was your age, my parents didn't have central heating like you do. We had a furnace in the center of the living room and that was it. We used it to cook, heat the house, and even dry our clothes. We never caught a cold. You should be grateful.
All right, we're back, and you mentioned about thermostat and your dad actually controlling the heating at home. Was this the case like this in this scenario?
It was sometimes would have to wear more clothes because we didn't want to run up the bill. But we had a special situation in my house because I'm from Chicago and it's very cold in the winters in Chicago, but we had a fireplace. Okay, so even if it was very cold, we always had firewood and we could put on the fire in the fireplace to keep warm. So everyone would stay in the living room and read and listen to music and just, relax.
Now, I heard that because, when you're burning wood, it causes some pollution. In some cities, it's banned, right, to actually turn on to have a fireplace.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but in Chicago, you can still do it.
Absolutely. And in most of the states, you can. Although a lot of people in new houses, they don't have real fireplaces. They have electric fireplaces. And so you can use a light switch to turn on your fire. It's not a real fire. It's just a glowing
fancy
light. Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. This is an interesting lesson, especially because the winter season is coming up and, everyone is cold. So we hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, any doubts, you can come to our website, englishpod.com.
We hope to see you there. Happy studies and stay warm.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Acquire bills or debts. Run up. Increase the intensity of a device. Churn up. Very cold. Chilly. Become infected with a cold. Catch a cold. Thankful. Grateful.
Let's try that faster.
Acquire bills or debts. Run up. Increase the intensity of a device. Churn up. Thankful. Grateful. Become infected with a cold. Catch a cold. Very cold. Chilly.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Run up. He ran up a very expensive tab at the local bar. Run up. The new heating system they installed ran up their electric bill. Run up. They were running up huge bills with his new spending habits. Churn up. Honey, could you please turn up the heat? It's freezing in here. Churn up. I need to churn up the heat or I'll freeze. Churn up. I wish I could turn up the heat, but I don't have any control in this hotel room. Chilly. It's starting to get a little chilly in here. Chilly. He said that it was so chilly that he had to put 2 sweaters on. Chilly. It is very chilly in this room. Catch a cold. You will catch a cold if you don't put a sweater on. Catch a cold. My friend Amy caught the flu and had to stay home for a week. Catch a cold. He caught a cold last week, and now we all have it too. Grateful. I am so grateful that the police came just in time. Grateful. He was so grateful that he could finally see his daughter again. Grateful. She was very grateful to have such wonderful friends.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And where are we going today, Erica?
To the pharmacy.
All right, to the pharmacy or drugstore?
Yes.
Or also in British English, sometimes people will say the chemist.
That's right.
So as you know, at the pharmacy you get medicine, but there are certain vocabulary words that are related to this place that we need to learn.
That's right. So we're going to learn some vocabulary about medicine and also some interesting phrases.
So before we listen to the dialogue, let's take a look at vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
We're going to look at 2 words today that you'll hear in the dialogue. And the first one, milligrams.
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 Also, the abbreviation for this is mg.
That's right.
Okay. So a milligram is
1/100th of a gram. So there are 100 milligrams in a gram.
exactly, and it's very common to be used with medicine, right?
Exactly.
You buy medicine in milligrams. Mm-hmm. Okay, and what's our next word?
Price check.
A price check.
A price check.
Okay, so at the pharmacy or at the supermarket, sometimes the cashier will ask for a price check.
And that is the action of checking to find out the price.
Okay, so a price check. With this, I think we're ready now to listen to our dialogue for the first time. And let's see what our shopper is buying at the pharmacy.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I need this prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay. You should take 1 capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach, and also don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry, I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Can I also get some eye drops and some condoms?
Sure. Darn, condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
Oh no, how embarrassing.
A little bit embarrassing that she asked for a price check on these condoms, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It seems like every time you have to buy something embarrassing at the pharmacy, there's a million people watching you.
Yeah. It never fails.
Yep.
Well, let's take a look at some of those words that we were talking about related to medicine in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, well, the first word, a prescription.
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 All right, so what is a prescription?
Well, a prescription is a note from your doctor explaining what medicine you need.
So this note from your doctor is necessary to buy that medicine, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Prescription. Well, this shopper was getting some medicine and, well, the chemist or the pharmacist asked if he wanted it in capsules or tablets.
So let's look at those 2 words. A capsule.
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 Now, a capsule is like a small tube, right?
Yeah, it's a form of a pill. And it's shaped like a tube with the medicine inside.
And it's covered in plastic, right?
Exactly.
Now, you swallow the capsule.
Yep.
And the tablet
is like a pill that is round and flat.
Okay, so tablet and capsule, both are the same thing basically, but just different presentations.
Different shapes.
Different shapes.
Yeah.
It's easier maybe for some people to swallow a capsule.
You think so?
I don't know, I think so.
Well,
because sometimes tablets are a little bit like big circles and it's hard to swallow.
Yeah, and I guess capsules are smoother.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not pharmacists, so let's move on and focus on the language, which is what we do know about. So the pharmacist warned the patient not to take too much medicine, right? Mm-hmm. Because he might overdose. Overdose.
Okay, so to overdose, like you said,
is to take too much medicine and get really sick or even die.
So if you overdose on medicine, it could be bad for you instead of good.
Well, obviously very bad.
And what about our last word for today?
Well, the shopper also asked for some eye drops.
Eye drops.
Eye drops.
So this is medicine for your eyes.
Yeah, usually liquid, like water that you put in your eyes.
Okay. So I think now with this medicine language clear, we can listen to our dialogue again, but it's going to be slowed down a little bit.
That'll help us understand these phrases just a little bit better.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I need this prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay, you should take 1 capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach. And also, don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry. I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes. I almost forgot. Can I get some eye drops and, some condoms?
Sure. Darn condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
Okay, so now it's time for us to take a look at some of the phrases that we saw in this dialogue in putting it together.
Putting it together.
We're going to look at 2 phrases here, and we're going to see how we can use them in different situations. The pharmacist warned, be sure not to take it on an empty stomach.
Okay, so be sure not to.
Be sure not to.
So what does he mean by this?
He just means don't do this.
Okay.
So don't take the medicine without eating.
We can mix it up a little bit. Why don't we listen to some examples of how we can use this in different situations?
Example 1.
Be sure not to leave your bike outside or it will be stolen.
Example 2.
Be sure not to forget your umbrella. It's raining today.
Example 3.
I told him to be sure not to do anything stupid, but he did.
So Marco, why should we say be sure not to instead of don't?
I think don't sounds more like an order.
Okay.
Very direct. Maybe be sure not to is a little bit softer, a little bit more friendly. So be sure not to. Now, for our last phrase. So the pharmacist, in the end, wanted to check for the price, and he said, just hang on there a sec.
So that's interesting. Hang on.
Hang on.
Hang on.
Well, hang on. What does he mean by hang on?
He means wait.
Wait. Mm-hmm. It's an informal way of saying wait.
Exactly. It's also a little bit more friendly than just saying wait.
Right, exactly. And we can change the time a little bit, right?
Yeah, so you can say hang on a second.
Mm-hmm. Or hang on a moment.
Hang on a minute.
All right.
What about hang on an hour?
Well, maybe if you're telling someone to wait for an hour, just hang on there for an hour. I'll be there soon.
Yeah, but I guess it's more common hang on a minute, hey?
Right, maybe for shorter periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with these phrases, I think now we can use them in different circumstances, obviously not only in the pharmacy.
Yep.
And, well, let's listen to our dialogue for the last time.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I need this prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay. You should take 1 capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach, and also don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry, I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Can I also get some eye drops and some condoms?
Sure. Darn condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
Okay, so with medicine, an interesting thing comes up, right?
That's right. A lot of people think that you eat medicine.
Okay, or drink medicine?
Yeah, but in English, you always take medicine.
Always take medicine.
Yeah, so you never can say, oh, I ate my medicine yesterday. It always has to be, I took my medicine.
Okay, so you take the capsules.
Exactly, or take the tablets.
All right. So you take medicine. Now, an interesting thing in the United States, for example, it's very hard to get medicine without a prescription.
That's right. So we always talk about prescription medicine, and OTC medicine or over-the-counter medicine
So over-the-counter medicine is
medicine you can just buy without that prescription or note from your doctor.
okay. So for example, if you have a headache, you can go to the pharmacy and buy aspirin.
Yeah, and that's over-the-counter medicine.
But prescription medicine, you can't get it without the doctor's note.
Yes, and like you said, in America, you almost have to have a prescription for everything.
Which is strange because people can overdose on aspirin. So tell us how medicine and pharmacies work in your countries. And also if you have questions or comments. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. A list of drugs written by a doctor.
Prescription.
A unit for measuring weight.
Milligram.
Drug contained in a plastic container.
Capsule.
Drug formed in round, hard shape.
Tablet.
Take more drugs than suggested.
Overdose.
Liquid used to drop into eyes to treat eye diseases.
Eye drop.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Type in the number of something to check its price.
Get a price check.
A device made of a hollow tube and a needle that is used to force fluids into or take fluids out of the body.
Syringe.
A usually sweet liquid that contains medicine used to stop coughing, called also cough medicine.
Cough syrup.
A covering, such as a strip of cloth, that protects or supports part of the body that has been hurt.
Bandage.
A liquid that is used to make things lighter in color or to kill bacteria.
Hydrogen peroxide.
A smooth substance that is rubbed on the skin to help heal a wound or to reduce pain or discomfort.
Ointment.
Let's try that faster. Drug contained in a plastic container.
Capsule.
Drug formed in round, hard shape.
Tablet.
Take more drugs than suggested.
Overdose.
Liquid used to drop into eyes to treat eye diseases.
Eye drop.
A device made of a hollow tube and a needle that is used to force fluids into or take fluids out of the body.
Syringe.
A liquid that is used to make things lighter in color or to kill bacteria.
Hydrogen peroxide.
A covering, such as a strip of cloth, that protects or supports part of the body that has been hurt.
Bandage.
Type in the number of something to check its price.
Get a price check.
A list of drugs written by a doctor.
Prescription.
A unit for measuring weight.
Milligram.
A usually sweet liquid that contains medicine used to stop coughing, called also cough medicine.
Cough syrup.
A smooth substance that is rubbed on the skin to help heal a wound or to reduce pain or discomfort.
Ointment.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Prescription.
In order to buy medicine in the U.S., you need to bring your doctor's prescription.
Prescription.
I lost my prescription and I don't remember what medicine I had to buy.
Prescription.
Valium is medicine that you can only buy with a prescription.
Tablet.
Children should only take half a tablet of cold medicine.
Tablet.
I find it hard to swallow tablets. They are just too big.
Tablet.
I had a box full of medicine tablets, but I don't know where I left it.
Overdose.
My dog accidentally swallowed some aspirins and almost overdosed.
Overdose.
A lot of famous movie stars have accidentally overdosed on drugs and died.
Overdose.
You must follow your doctor's instructions when taking medicine, otherwise you might overdose.
Eye drop.
Your eyes are really red. You should get some eye drops.
Eye drop.
When I wear contact lens, I have to use these eye drops or else my eyes get irritated.
Eye drop.
Susan got pink eye, so her doctor prescribed some eye drops and told her not to touch her eyes. Some new merchandise arrived today, so we need to run a price check on each item. This item doesn't have a price on it. Can you run a price check to make sure we sell it here? That store always has to run a price check on new items since they don't have a modern pricing system. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. A list of drugs written by a doctor.
Prescription.
A unit for measuring weight.
Milligram.
Drug contained in a plastic container.
Capsule.
Drug formed in round, hard shape.
Tablet.
Take more drugs than suggested.
Overdose.
Liquid used to drop into eyes to treat eye diseases.
Eye drop.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Type in the number of something to check its price.
Get a price check.
A device made of a hollow tube and a needle that is used to force fluids into or take fluids out of the body.
Syringe.
A usually sweet liquid that contains medicine used to stop coughing, called also cough medicine.
Cough syrup.
A covering, such as a strip of cloth, that protects or supports part of the body that has been hurt.
Bandage.
A liquid that is used to make things lighter in color or to kill bacteria.
Hydrogen peroxide.
A smooth substance that is rubbed on the skin to help heal a wound or to reduce pain or discomfort.
Ointment.
Let's try that faster. Drug contained in a plastic container.
Capsule.
Drug formed in round, hard shape.
Tablet.
Take more drugs than suggested.
Overdose.
Liquid used to drop into eyes to treat eye diseases.
Eye drop.
A device made of a hollow tube and a needle that is used to force fluids into or take fluids out of the body.
Syringe.
A liquid that is used to make things lighter in color or to kill bacteria.
Hydrogen peroxide.
A covering, such as a strip of cloth, that protects or supports part of the body that has been hurt.
Bandage.
Type in the number of something to check its price.
Get a price check.
A list of drugs written by a doctor.
Prescription.
A unit for measuring weight.
Milligram.
A usually sweet liquid that contains medicine used to stop coughing, called also cough medicine.
Cough syrup.
A smooth substance that is rubbed on the skin to help heal a wound or to reduce pain or discomfort.
Ointment.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Prescription.
In order to buy medicine in the U.S., you need to bring your doctor's prescription.
Prescription.
I lost my prescription and I don't remember what medicine I had to buy.
Prescription.
Valium is medicine that you can only buy with a prescription.
Tablet.
Children should only take half a tablet of cold medicine.
Tablet.
I find it hard to swallow tablets. They are just too big.
Tablet.
I had a box full of medicine tablets, but I don't know where I left it.
Overdose.
My dog accidentally swallowed some aspirins and almost overdosed.
Overdose.
A lot of famous movie stars have accidentally overdosed on drugs and died.
Overdose.
You must follow your doctor's instructions when taking medicine, otherwise you might overdose.
Eye drop.
Your eyes are really red. You should get some eye drops.
Eye drop.
When I wear contact lens, I have to use these eye drops or else my eyes get irritated.
Eye drop.
Susan got pink eye, so her doctor prescribed some eye drops and told her not to touch her eyes. Some new merchandise arrived today, so we need to run a price check on each item. This item doesn't have a price on it. Can you run a price check to make sure we sell it here? That store always has to run a price check on new items since they don't have a modern pricing system.